Hi everyone, and welcome to the 100th episode. I should be having a champagne glass by now, but it's early in the morning. Anyway, thank you so much for watching the show. Those who've been watching many episodes, we've gotten here 100 days of doing this thing, 9 a.m. every day without fail, and it's an achievement for me. I'm very happy about the reach of the show, but mostly really about the feedback. When people tell you what the show does for them, the information that they get from the show, for me that has made me the happiest. And I wanted to do this. I was thinking, how can I do this grand, how can this show become like there, how can I make something special out of it? But then you've already had people like Black Coffee, you've had people like DJ Spinner, Louis Vega, and so many other people. It's so hard to top that up, So instead of topping that up, I was like, no, let me put myself on the show. But I needed somebody who would do the questions, and who better to get than somebody who was my first guest on the show. And he's got his own show, obviously on 5FM. Kid Funk, welcome. You should be doing this, but welcome to the
I
show
know, I
again.
know. I feel like I need to be doing the introduction. Welcome, Sir LSG, to Bread for Soul, 100th edition. Congratulations.
Thank you, bro. Thank you so much.
This has been big for you, man. This is I do want to start at the beginning, but I also want to congratulate you on something that you created over lockdown, which is Bread for Soul discussions. And Bread for Soul was something else before lockdown. Bread for Soul was almost like a channel for you to showcase the music that you were into.
Yeah.
What do you want to quickly give us a little bit of kind of insight as to what Bread for Soul was before it became this platform for discussion in house music, essentially?
Yeah, I mean, it was really like a podcast, a music podcast for me to do mixes on, like to do monthly mixes. And I've been doing this podcast since 2012. That was the first one. So it's been 8 years doing this podcast, mostly like without skipping a month. Once in a year, there would be a month if something's really hectic where I'm not able to do a mix. But most of the time, like I've been trying to do it consistently and mainly focusing on soulful music, soulful house. But once in a year as well, I would have like a mix where I do like a hip hop, down tempo type of mix, lounge, And that has been my platform of a way to kind of introduce the music that I play. Because what I realized is that once people caught on to the Bread for Soul sessions, the podcast, it becomes like an identity, So people know me for that. People usually book me specifically for that, and yeah, man, that's where it really started before it
I
became
mean,
this.
I've toured certain areas in South Africa with you, and exactly what you're saying. The people identify you with Bread for Soul straight away.
Yeah,
They'll come up to you and be like, "Yo, Edition, this and that. That's the
yeah,
one." Da, da, da. And you've created a fan base that's come out of this podcast. But more than anything, I know you firstly as a producer. And I want to take it back to when I first met you, which was at Soul Candy.
yeah,
And I was the label manager. And in a sense, I was still learning my way around the music industry. And we were trying to create platforms and certain compilations and ways to get new school producers known by the Soul Candy community. And you were always someone that kept coming up. We were doing Candy Roots at the time.
yes,
I was thinking a lot about Candy Roots last night just because it identified so much with where our relationship started. And what happened? We were supposed to do one. And
yeah.
I don't know what happened. I think you got picked up by go-go music or something at the
No,
time.
it was actually because the speed at which you guys were working at Soul Candy, like, because
Which is quick, man.
it was very quick, So when you called me to a meeting and we had a discussion, man, this is what we're trying to do, and I asked you, okay, when is this album coming out? Like, no, 2 months, something like that. Is that enough? And I was like, hell no, you know what I mean? Like, knowing myself, because I think already I had begun starting to work on some kind of an album for myself, but I was very slow, bro. You know, like, and I still am.
I think that's the thing that you are. Even like you said, you're very slow. Then I know, when it comes to production, you take your time,
Yeah,
and that's not a bad thing. I
yeah,
know people that can turn around songs in a day
yeah,
or turn around remix. That's also not a bad thing. It's
yeah,
just how each person works,
yeah,
and I think that's something that you've always identified with me, is that you take your time.
yeah.
And when it comes to production, it's something that has to happen organically and
Mm.
not really rushed. Is there a process behind that? Because again, I mean, I know you firstly for production. I really want to get into the mindset of Sir LSG and the music he makes.
Yeah, yeah, definitely there is a process. It's like um, when the kind of music that I've always strived to make is songs that really sound like a band, you know, like so when you're listening to the song, you can see many people sitting on stage and performing the song, even if it could have like elements of electronic sounds in it, but it's still something that you see that it's more than one person working, you know. So that's the foundation for the type of music that I produce. It's like, yes, it's my identity, but like it's also a mixture of other people, you know. Like I would have Tandin Tuli on as a co-producer or co-write a lot of my songs, but no, and then extended to have horn players, to have guitar players, percussions, you know, and
Yeah,
record all of that live and mix this live element with electronic music, you know, and that has been kind of an identity that I wanted to keep for house music, you know. Yes, I do like delve into a bit electronic sounds, but it's still like soulful, and more often than not, there's more than myself working in the pieces. You know what I mean?
sure, sure.
Yeah.
I always remember, and this is probably something I've never told you, but I remember like you were one of the key people that we wanted to put on It's Soul Candy. And obviously, like you said, our output was so quick that we just didn't manage to make it work.
Mm.
But then out of nowhere, I just started seeing your releases being connected to go-go music,
Yeah.
with Ralph Gum.
Yeah.
And I was a little bit jealous at the time. I was a little bit like, how did Ralph manage to get LSG and we couldn't? Like, we're such a big brand, Soul Candy. Like,
Yeah.
why did he get it? And then the next thing I saw, DJ Spinner was remixing your stuff. And I was like,
Yeah.
how did this happen?
Yeah.
Tell us,
Yeah.
tell us a little bit about the connection with you and Ralph, because it feels like it's a little bit deeper than any artist label relationship.
Bro, like it feels surreal now that like I am even getting goosebumps, you know, like when talking about this, because you know, when firstly I have to start when you are looking up to someone, someone like Ralph as a producer, there is nowhere in my mind where I'm thinking at some point I'm gonna be working with this guy. Like absolutely nowhere, you know, like. And I remember having a song that I did, Sex in the City. I was still part of Hood Natives then. And, um, you know, I wanted to get gigging. I wanted to get more gigs for myself. And what I did, I
Sure.
started looking for promoters who were doing the kind of gigs that I wanted to play. So most of the time, promoters would be DJs themselves, you know. So I would be sending this song to promoters, and I sent it to one guy in Bloom, Mavusana, who used to do a dope event called the Black Tie event. And I always liked, you know, seeing pictures of people dressed up. Anyway, that was my goal, really, to play on that event, not for Ralph Gum
Oh,
to hear the song. Now, Christos was playing at Mavosana's event, and he heard Mavosana play my song, you know. Christos is like, man, I need this tune, right? So he hits me up, and this is like maybe 4 years without speaking to DJ Christos. You know, I used to have, I had a relationship with him, and I get a call out of nowhere, and he's like, yo, this is Chris. I'm like, okay, this is interesting, you know, what's up? He likes the song, and from him liking the song, Ralph Gum heard the song from Chris. He wanted to license the song, but the meeting that I had with Ralph, I think that's where, you know, the relationship really happened. You know, when you, sometimes there are people that you just click with, you know, like there's no,
sure.
you, there's, yes, you can see the similarities between your personalities, but it just works, you know. Like he started asking me to do remixes first. Once
Wow.
he had released that, I did a remix for DJ Christos and Remores, which were on Gogo. So the attitude that I had at the time, I was always on point. I was that person. You would send me an email right now, and he would be like, I need stems for 1, 2, 3, and soon, I'll be sending back stems. So I think he also saw somebody with hunger, somebody who was prepared with their art, with their work, and it grew from there. It grew from just being somebody releasing on the label, me releasing on his label, but to it becoming more like a friendship, if I may put it like
So
that. Yeah, man, and it has
it,
grown
it
so much.
almost feels like, and I know Gogo is definitely Ralph's label, but it feels like your guys' connection is so strong that it feels like you have some part to play in Gogo, because not many people get to release on Gogo.
Yeah,
Gogo, in my mind, is kind of like a label that was built for Ralph to be able to express himself.
yeah,
And a lot of artists do that because they don't feel like another label would represent what their vision is
yeah.
properly.
Mm.
And Ralph built Gogo to do that. And I didn't really see many other artists coming on the label. And then you did. And I was like, again, I was like, firstly, I know how LSG did it because he's amazing. He's an incredible producer. But what was the thing that led Ralph guard down and be like, cool, come join me, join my label?
Yeah.
And you, like I said, you've become a very, in a sense, almost like a partner to Gogo.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, like I've spoken to him about this partnership thing, and I think,
Really?
yeah, yeah,
You're trying to
like,
get players?
yeah, yeah. I am actually for real, for real. I was like,
Really?
yeah, yeah. I was like, bruh, like, I mean, you and I are doing everything together. We're doing events together. We're promoting our own events. When he's got a tour, and it's like us working on a tour. When I have a tour, same, similar thing.
For sure.
And I think, firstly, it's about how well you work with people. Like, I wasn't the
Definitely.
first artist to release on Gogo from South Africa. I think Black Coffee was the first one, but there were other guys like 60 Hertz Project who came before me. Minjo and Essential I released something as well. But I think it's always about the relationship. What kind of a relationship do you have beyond the music? The respect that comes from that relationship too. That's how it's the same as you and Julian. Like, besides being people who work together, but there's just something about your relationship and understanding that you can't even put to words. So I think
For sure.
that was one of the main things why me and Ralph became partners. Just a matter of time before I asked for an official partnership now.
Slap the dotted line.
Yeah,
Come, it is
exactly.
be part of Gogo.
Yeah,
It makes
yeah.
a lot of sense. And I know you've mentioned all these people that have been on Gogo. I really think you are the most memorable because you have been with Ralph for so long, and it feels like Ralph really understands your vision and really understands what you want to do. And I don't know how many other artists have put out full albums on Gogo besides Ralph.
Mm.
Are you the only one?
No, it was the first one was the only other person was Raw Artistic Soul,
Okay.
and I think he stopped. It's been a while since he released anything on Google. And yeah, I was the second one.
How was that? How was that? I know how important albums are to artists because albums really give you kind of 30, 40 minutes, an hour to showcase what you want to put out there for people to hear. Instead of just one song, you can give them a proper story.
Mm.
How was it for you writing your first album? I remember kind of being somewhere in the background for most of maybe the end of the record.
Yeah.
I had you perform live, a full live performance with Tandy on
Yeah.
keys and everyone singing on Selective Stars. But how was it for you as an artist to be able to say, I'm going to write a record, and then I know you're not a fast producer, be able to stick within a time frame and produce, and the outcome? How was that whole experience?
Yo, man, like that album for me, it was 4 years long. As much as it wasn't like 4 years every day, but
No,
most
no,
of
no, yeah,
most of the days, like,
chisel.
yeah, yeah, most of the days from work, it would be kind of like a routine, you know, like my at that time while I was working full time, I was not working maybe from 12 p.m., knocking off at 9:30. So from 10 when I get home, that would be my album production process, like working and making the beats or planning out recordings. And the other thing, like because it takes so long, um, it's like it's not one emotion. Like it's almost like you're working on songs, and for as long as there's a feeling for that song, once you lose that, like, because that's the thing with me. Sometimes I never get to carry through one production of a song from start to finish. There's breaks in between that I take. You know, sometimes I'm just not feeling the song, or the production is not flowing as much as I think it should, and I take a break or work on another song. You know, so I always do this um, back and forth thing with songs. But the other good thing with doing that and having a label like Gogo, Ralph completely understands. For him, it's like it will be released when it's done. You know, there isn't even like a date on it. There isn't a due date for that. You need to be done by this point. It's almost like, yeah, man, do what you need to do until it's done, and then we can carry on. You know, so there was a constant sending of files between myself and Ralph just for advices, and so he was heavily involved as well in terms of advising the sounds, the quality of the sounds, you know. And Ralph is very brutal, bro. As much as he's a nice guy, there were times where he was like, bro, this sounds like plastic, you know.
Oh wow.
Yeah, yeah. He'd be like, please try to work on your sounds, work on your song selection, your sound selection, you know. So I had a very honest person, honest mentor who wasn't obviously afraid to tell me exactly what he thought of the process, but that made me a better person. That made the production a better process as well, you know.
And I think for an artist to be able to take these sort of criticisms with not to heart, understand that it is someone mentoring you in a who knows this school of production better than you,
Yeah,
and to be able to be not hard on yourself and take the advice and apply it takes a lot from an artist. I think there's a certain amount of maturity you need to have,
yeah,
because in my experience in being in a record label for many, many years now, some people don't take criticism too well. You know, even when you have the experience, people have a very clear vision as to how their thing will be, even though it doesn't work for you.
yeah,
It's a big thing to be able to take criticism and put and apply it. You know what I mean? Because you know that this person's criticism will make it sound better.
yeah.
So
Mm.
yeah, I think that goes back to your relationship with Ralph, is that you guys are cool to be honest with each other,
Yeah, but
which
it's
is
not always easy, you know. Like I would be hurt sometimes, bruh. Like for somebody to tell you, like, bruh, like this thing, yeah, you need to really up your game. That time you are thinking you've put in your all, you know. But I think it's an
yeah,
experience thing more than anything. Like once you can put yourself as a producer, I think when we are working on something constantly without referencing, without listening to other stuff, we tend to think that the thing sounds great, it sounds perfect, you know. But it's then until you can compare the sounds. When somebody puts your song and somebody's song and say, listen to this, this is what you similar sound that you're trying to achieve, and this is where you are, you kind of like here, and you're trying to get to this level. So you,
yeah.
like, you're right, you need a sense of maturity to be able to understand that and take the criticism positively, you know.
No, 100%.
Yeah.
So you did your album, you put your album out to the world. How was that for you as an artist? I mean, I know when I released my record, like I didn't sleep the night before. I was just so like, you're putting your soul out for the world to judge,
Yeah.
to listen. And I say that because I do that.
Mm.
I wait for albums that I'm dying to hear. And when they come out, I listen with a judgmental ear.
Yeah.
Like either it works for me or it doesn't work for me. Now I'm sitting in the seat where people are going to be judging my art and my heart and my soul that I've produced for, in your case, 4 years.
Yeah.
That must have been quite scary for you.
Bruh, it was. I think it was more exciting for me because,
Right?
you know, when sometimes you know, bruh, like, And the judgment from other people, it's like, it's either, for me it was never gonna be, this thing does not sound like quality. So that's the first
Mm.
confidence booster. You, like, when you know that quality wise this thing is covered, like, I've got great musicians on, and the production you've done, when you've done as much as you possibly can into creating a body of work, the the response that comes after that is kind of like secondary. Like, I was almost very almost arrogant to that point. When you find, like, man, I've worked with Tandin Dooley, and this is somebody who's done so much work in the jazz scene, Clara Hill,
Yeah, yeah.
Zano, Ayanda Gia. Like, I had no doubts with regards to the quality, but the only thing that was quite scary was, how will people receive this thing? Will people actually love the music? And 12 a.m. hit. I was sitting right here, man, like, looking at iTunes charts, number one,
Yes.
and I'm going crazy. Like, that was by far one of the best moments, periods of my life. Honestly, like,
So 12 o'clock hits and your album went straight to number one.
straight to number one, and I'm checking,
Wow.
like, there's like a Mikasa, there's the now 40, and all of those kind of albums that you would assume would be best-selling albums. And
And some
here's,
heavyweight. Yeah.
bruh, it was one of the most amazing feelings ever. If I could relive that with my next project, man, I'd be happy.
The power of music, and the one thing that we do have in South Africa is we have a very, very committed fan base to the music that we play. And I mean, you've traveled overseas, I've traveled overseas, and I think when you look and see what they have when it comes to the space that we play in, we essentially have the biggest market.
Yeah, yeah,
I don't know any other country where we could release music like we do, and for that to get to number one.
yeah,
You
yeah,
know,
yeah.
it's we live in a very, very blessed space. Guys appreciate what we do.
It's a special space.
After the album released, uh, I know that there was a period of touring, there was a period of promotion. How was that for you? How was that whole experience? Pushing your hard work.
Yeah, it was quite dope. Like, having to work. That's another thing with Gogo. It's a small label, and you would have, a similar experience. When you have a small label, you can, like, everything's on you, right? Like, so when it comes to the promotion of this thing, if you didn't know, it's now your chance to learn how are we going to best promote this thing. So now we become involved in the marketing of the album. Like, how can we get to radio stations? How can we get to venues? So we literally draft a plan of venues in our own minds. Like, this thing is gonna work. Like, there's no way that no one is gonna say no. But in our own minds, the way we work at it, we're like, let's look at KZN. What are the venues in KZN that can support this album in terms of the launch of the album? And then we just list those dates: KZN, Western Cape, Gauteng, and so forth. So what we then do is plan dates. Okay, we are telling the owner that we are coming to KZN on this particular weekend, and we're gonna be
Mhm.
doing maybe 033. We'll do Mojos. If we're going to Mojos, we'll do another venue. But all of the venues are kind of planned for them to happen in one weekend per region. So then we start approaching those venues to kind of create demand. Like, I've got Ralph Gams, Sir LSG. Here's the album. If you wanna have Zano, if you wanna have Ayanda Gia, so you create, like, packages that you can offer to different venues. And it's a lot of work, because most of the time people are not interested in you; they're interested in Ralph Gam. That's another thing. That type of
Yeah.
thing. So then, as you work on it, before you know it, bro, we had, like, a long tour date sorted, and that was really truly a blessing to be able to do that.
Tell me, you know, my history with you is music. We've spoken about the beginning of Sir LSG with a little bit of soul candy, a lot of go-go music, your album, and then all the way up to where we are sitting right now on 100 shows of Bread for Soul, which I think is such a huge accomplishment. I don't think I know it's a huge accomplishment because although I haven't watched every single one of your shows, I've seen the impact that they've had on people. And you and I have been discussing in the background in the evenings, kind of, what you've been doing. And I do a fair amount of interviewing, but I don't do interviewing at the rates that you have done. You have literally interviewed someone every single day for 100 days. Where did this idea come from for you to create this? And what has kept you so on track? Like, what has kept you motivated to consistently put out this content? I see the work that you're doing. I see the work on Facebook, on Instagram, obviously through the podcasts or these interviews themselves. What made you decide to do it? What was the driving force behind it, and what has kept you going to today to 100 shows?
Bruh, like I think um, in the my thing with working on TV, I've always had such a drive to want to do interviews. Like interviews have always been my thing. Like I watch a lot of documentaries, and if you watch documentaries, it's actually nothing but interviews that you do with different people, and with
Sure,
that comes a lot of storytelling that you might not necessarily get unless somebody's sitting down asking the right questions. That was the first one, and the second one was that doing tours, radio tours for moving circles, I was tired of being asked like things like, what did you feel like, doing that one song? Like, what were you smoking? Like, you know what I mean? Like, I understand it, and I feel like, yeah, it's a compliment. Yeah, like you like the music, but I've always had the passion to ask deeper questions for artists because I wished somebody was asking me those questions. Like, um,
for sure.
so that's where kind of like the general idea comes from. But I remember um, shortly when the lockdown was announced, I started doing just on a selfie mode um, talks. I would just literally, it was meant to be a 30-minute thing where I'm talking about the industry, my journey. I ended up talking for an hour, and I was like, okay, firstly, I didn't know I talk so much, but like, there's also, there's
Yeah, I
also,
mean, you keep these conversations going, man. I mean, I do interviews every week for my radio show, but I have a short radio show.
yeah,
And I've, in a sense, had to keep my interviews quite short and punchy because I want to have an extended piece of music come on
yes,
after that or cut into music.
yeah,
And you've completely gone into this talk show host style, which has been fascinating for me to see
yeah,
that you've been able to keep conversations going and keep conversations insightful and memorable
yeah.
um, every day for an hour. It's like you're the Oprah Winfrey of deep house music in South Africa. Like you're nailing it. You really are. It's
Thank you.
been admirable to watch and see you on this journey.
Yeah.
Um, and you're 100 shows deep, and man, you've got yourself some incredible people to interview.
Mm,
Some people I've struggled to get to interview on, Bread for Soul, which is, your network. I think more than anything has been very, very strong through this. You've showed how strong your network is and how many people want to be part of
mm,
the discussions.
mm.
What has been your favorite discussion, and what has been the discussion that you felt you learned the most out of?
Damn, bro. Hey, you putting me on the spot like that. I'm trying to think now. So most, if not all of these interviews, there's always something that catches me off guard, like that I learned. Like, oh, okay, I actually didn't notice this or something. But I think the Black Coffee interview, just because of the kind of artist that he is, the successes that he's reached, was quite yeah. It was an amazing one, but also it was, when I did it, it was a scary one to do, and let me tell you why. Because think about this. So I had just had an opportunity to get DJ's Boo on, right? And I'm like, I'm out of my mind, bro. I'm like, DJ's Boo, what, really? I got DJ's
Yeah.
Boo. And so the day that I'm doing DJ's Boo, and I'm just doing like final touches of questions, as I'm preparing in the morning, and I get an SMS, a confirmation that, okay, Black Coffee says today at 10:30, and I'm like now, like, cause
Wow. No time to prepare, nothing.
man, and let me tell you this, like, I've always, when you always want to talk to somebody, like, yes, you are working towards getting them, but until I get the confirmation, I never really prepare, like, because I
Sure.
never know if it will actually happen. But it's almost like in my mind, the yes, I know more or less what I want to ask him. But to get the confirmation at like 7 a.m., I'm almost done with preparing for DJ's Boo, who's live at 9. And DJ's Boo, like, he talks a lot too. So he's running
Right.
over, like, and I'm thinking it's 10:15. I'm still talking to Boo. Black Coffee is ready at 10:30. I haven't really like went through the questions again. It was a scary one, bro. But what I've what that taught me is like people are different, but the way you approach the interview as the host, I just told myself, if I'm calm and it's not about me, like the interview is not really about me, nobody.
Good.
Yes, people are
You
interested.
navigate.
Yeah, I navigate, like, let's go here, let's go there, but for most part, I just get, with Black Coffee specifically, I just chose on a flow, then I just give him one answer. From that answer, he gives you so much other things to ask on, you know what I mean? So
Mm.
I learned just the way to handle different types of interviews, because people are different. When you're talking to Black Coffee and when you talk to Oskido was the scariest one, because he didn't know me. Like, believe it or not, he didn't know who the hell was this guy. He literally got on. He's like, okay, what is this about? Like, where is it playing? And I now, and it's very serious, like, and I'm like, oh my
Yes.
god, this will be a difficult one, but yeah, man, like, it's been one of those. I think learning the different kind of people and how to handle yourself with different people, that has been the biggest lesson for me, definitely.
I think, I come from the school of SABC, where we have what you call snoop sessions. So you go in and there's a station manager, and they listen to your interviews, somewhat like what Ralph Gunn would listen to your productions,
Yeah,
and they judge you.
yeah.
So they'll be like, yo, like, you did that wrong, you said this wrong, blah, blah, blah. But then they help.
Mm.
They teach you how to interview people. And I've learned a lot from, the people at 5FM and SABC in regards to how I structure and go about my interviews. And watching you, I feel like there's been no one, but you're just smashing it every single time. And I haven't seen every single interview that you've done, but there's been moments where I have, I really sat down to watch the China Comedian interview, because, my heart is quite close to what he's doing. And I feel like I've been a part of the journey. So it was nice to see how you conducted the interview with China Comedian. And you did it really well. There were some really difficult moments,
Yeah.
that you managed to just pull back and keep the interview flowing. I mean, is
Mm-hmm.
this what you've learned throughout these 100 shows? I'm sure. I mean, to keep the conversation going, to keep things honest. I think more than anything, you've really, really been able to get honest conversations, which takes a lot.
Yeah.
You seem to have schooled yourself in that.
Yeah, it's a I think also being on TV, working on TV for a long time, it gives you that bit of an edge, because I've watched someone, like, I've directed Scoop Makatini when he's doing
Okay.
interviews, and he's one of the best people to do interviews, really, like, even though he's a hip hop person. But most of it, I think, it's being in the game for as long as possible, like being a producer myself, being a musician, and knowing struggles, and successes of musicians, and how it actually feels. Firstly, I think also, research. When you've done a lot of research on someone,
Yeah.
it kind of like gives you that, you not only when they throw back something, you're able to throw back as well. You're able to catch and throw back. So it's more like, the research, something that, there's a lady called, Jihan Eldari. Jihan is a filmmaker, and she's a friend of mine whom I met like a while ago. She shoots documentaries, and this is something that I learned. That if you do a lot of research, you'll never feel out of depth in an interview. But things like moments like the one that we had with China Chameleon, where he's talking and then he's crying and it's an emotional subject. I think there was a point, like I was showing my partner, if people go to like that specific point, you would see him like he cries, right, and he's like cut it, like, but he's kind of looking, but he's kind of like cut it, but because he also doesn't know how to react, because he's in tears now. People are gonna see him in tears, but my duty is to make him feel comfortable, and
Yes,
also say that it is okay that you're crying. It's actually more powerful that people see this, so that the same people, somebody who's going through the exact same emotion, can understand that it's okay to go through that emotion, and they are not the only ones. So I
sure.
think, bro, like that was one of the most, touching ones, to be honest, for somebody who was almost at the verge of committing suicide, and he's crying, bruh, and for him to share that. But mostly also the following day, a few days after, like, you sent me a WhatsApp and he sent me an email saying, bruh, after my interview with you, I've written this song, and what a beautiful song. Powerful stuff,
Yeah,
bruh.
China's very he's very emotional and in tune with his music. So he's done a song called "Dear God," tribute to Kid Funk, to me, which was at a time where I was putting out his music, and he felt a really strong connection that what I was doing was benefiting him, and he created the song, and I was touched. And I feel like the interview that he had with you was so personal and so touching and so brave, for him, and how you conducted it. You kept the camera rolling, and you told him that everything's going to be okay, that he's in the right space, and he's going to help other people that are having a hard time. And he finished that interview and went and took those emotions and wrote a song, which is going to directly link to the conversation that you guys had. And I feel like the music that he makes is all about situations and pieces of time that he's in, which I love. I love that. I think it's such a beautiful artistic trait to have. But like I said, I haven't watched all of the Bread for Souls because you've been at it non-stop.
Yeah.
You mentioned Black Coffee. I've mentioned China Comedian. There've been some other really big ones. Ozanade.
Yeah.
Which are the ones other than Black Coffee that you were kind of like nervous to do and turned out to be really beautiful at the end?
I think, to be honest, like, most of them, like, I never had nerves. but
Yeah,
but to speak to someone like, Louis, uh,
yeah,
you
Louis
know
is beautiful to chat to.
yeah, but mostly like, speaking to people who don't know you, who don't really know you, as much as, like, for example, like Josh Milan, he doesn't really know me. It was actually the first time having a conversation with him. So you feel like, man, for this person to really have some respect for me, I need to show minimal respect to him too. I need to show as much respect, meaning that I go in there highly prepared. So when I start and I give somebody maybe the first question, sometimes it has to be something that, like, he goes maybe something like, oh, okay, I didn't expect that, or
Yeah,
like,
yeah, yeah,
oh,
yeah.
you've done your research, like, so it's things like this that allow me to, be at least comfortable knowing that I'm prepared for this thing. I could be speaking to the best artist in the world. I could be speaking to somebody who's relatively unknown, but the preparation kind of gets me to a point where, like, I'm more calm and I'm clear with where I want the story to go and how I want it to go there.
For sure.
Yeah.
So you've hit 100 shows. It's a big celebration. I know that there's no monetary value for you to do these shows.
Yeah.
A lot of people, it makes sense. You wake up and you go to a job because there's money at the end of it. Um, what's kept you going? What's kept this flame? I mean, you're building a brand. I feel like this is just the beginning of something for Sir LSG in regards to interviews. It would make total sense, man. You need a TV show without a doubt.
Yeah.
The Breakfast Soul needs to be on TV. But what's the end goal for you? How do you see Breakfast Soul conversations in another year's time?
Yeah. I think what has kept me going it has been really the commitment. Like once you commit yourself to something, especially when people see it, you like, it gives in your mind, it plays with you in a certain way, in a positive way. Let me put it that way. That once I've committed to do something, and I know that it can help certain people, and I've seen some success, like with it, with regards to the people that I'm able to get on the show, and it just gives me, it's a drive thing, like one thing that I can tell you that helped me before starting this, because during the lockdown, what we did, myself and my partner, we got into a space of uh, how can we have, how can we do some self development, like whether it's especially mentally, like how can we mentally help ourselves and grow ourselves. So we started watching a lot of YouTube videos about mindfulness, consciousness, meditation. So
Okay.
by the time I started the show, my mind was really like strong, like I was at the most powerful I've ever seen myself in terms of
Uh,
state of mind. I had gotten to this mindset of positivity and productivity as well. I was exercising regularly. So I hit it like at a time where I was almost like ready, like I could do I believed I could do anything. But obviously with that, the longer you go, then like everyone, you get to moments where it becomes a bit overwhelming. Like sometimes I would be having to record 3 interviews in a day. So preparing for
uh,
3 interviews, and these are long interviews. I need to feel like the research has to make me feel like I'm able to do this, man. Like it hasn't been easy, but you keep going, man. Like you keep going as much as, how could you now after 34, at the 34th episode, I was doing hosting Black Coffee. How could I stop? Like, there's,
no, for sure.
you
Yeah,
just,
you were up here now.
you're up here, but now you have to kind of keep it up. Where else could I go with this? But the other trick was that I wanted to keep a balance of having those A-class shows where you have like a spoo proverb, but I also want to have a show where I'm having a Malankani or a mix. I'm having the underground warriors, people who are doing well. I'm having a China chameleon, just to have
Yes.
these people all existing in the same platform. That for me also gives me um, reach, because I can't always have those A-listers on the show. And it wouldn't really make sense because I'm an underground person. But my thing is
100.
showing
Yes, yes,
underground that it can exist in the same space as some of the most established artists.
for sure.
Yeah.
Now, after 100 days, 100 conversations, 100 over-hour conversations with some of the most creative people in our country and in the deep house space across the world, you must have heard so many stories. And out of those stories, you must have pulled out some real nuggets that could help you and help people watching the show. Has there been any significant like similarities in things that could help people through this platform and the conversations that you've had?
Yeah, man. A lot, a lot. Like it's so scary how similar we are, and we don't think that we are.
Really?
Yeah, like as whether the most successful person and the aspiring artist go through very similar things at different levels. And what I mean by that, like, so I keep on going to the black coffee thing, right? So when you speak
Yes,
to
yes.
him, and he's like, because I asked him this question about um, being so popular and being at the A of your game, there is no way that you can exist like that and not have mental issues. Like it's
Yeah.
impossible. To
That's a very, very that's a very deep question to ask, man.
Yeah, yeah, bruh, sometimes I just go at it hoping that the context that he also understands. But bruh, luckily, and he was upfront because I asked him, do you go for therapy, because how do you then take the blows.
Yes, yes.
And he's like, yeah, actually, I'm supposed to be having my therapy session right now, but because
Oh
it's you
wow,
because it's you we'll carry on with the show.
for sure.
And then you speak to someone like Kulo, who also would be like, man, this feels like therapy. And then you go to a China Chameleon, and he's in a therapy session of some sort, because releasing
So
that hurt. You know what I mean?
yeah,
So that's one of the things that we all go through mentally, and emotionally. We go through very similar experiences. The difference is in the way we react to those experiences. And
totally.
we are different at that. Because Shimza, I asked him about it, and he was like, "Man, I don't have time to be feeling down. Like I've got
Oh
such a strong
wow.
mind. Even if
Yes,
things
yes,
are hard for him, he's got that ability to kind of get back on, and there he goes. And not everyone
100%.
is like that. So that's the one. If I could, one significant thing that I've noticed is that we all have mental issues at different times, at different levels, but we also react differently to those mental issues.
For sure. What's been the big thing, the biggest thing that's come out of the conversations that could help someone that is on coming up, someone that's starting, someone that's like maybe a level before China Chameleon,
Mm.
someone that's been watching this, and something that they could take away from these conversations and really help them on their journey.
I
I'm
think,
sure there must have been something that would assist.
bruh, I think almost everything, and by that I mean, um, the core of the conversations. Even though I would start maybe by covering somebody's where they started, and their inspirations and stuff like that. But at the core of it, I always get to a question of, how do you do this? Like, how does somebody do this? And I've asked that so many questions for different people. Like, I think specifically, if you could go to the episode with Sheila Afari, like as an up and coming person, you go to that episode with Sheila Afari, and Sheila Afari is one of the best PR people in the country, in Africa, if anything. And I was blessed to have her on a conversation, and one of the things that she mentioned was that a good PR person can take anybody from the street and really make them anything, and she doesn't need talent. She doesn't need you to be talented for her to make you somebody, or for you to be seen by other people to tell your story. So she said,
Mm.
everybody has a story. Everybody, even somebody who's in the street, everybody has a story. And if anybody has a story, you are able to take that story and put it in the best possible way for people to hear it. So I was
Mm.
like, what? So it's not about the talent. Like, so if somebody has talent, already you are a step ahead. Like, already you've got something to sell more than somebody who doesn't. So it's just a matter of, how do you use your talent? How can you get the talent to be seen or heard by the most amount of people possible? And sometimes it
Yeah.
takes longer for other people, it takes shorter for other people. But I think for up and comers, if you go to that episode, it's like that one how to thing that you could do, that you could implement. And she goes even further by saying that you don't need a PR person, a PR company to do it necessarily. You just need to be interested in, how do other people do it? Can I do this within my own means? You know what I mean?
Mm. Amazing,
Yeah.
amazing. I think it's been so inspiring, and I constantly message you to just remind you that the work that you've done is just so important and have helped so many people through lockdown. Like, I know you're going on a break, right? You're
Yeah,
going to
yeah.
take a bit of a break. How long are you going to take?
Man.
What do you need, LSG?
Bro, I need this break. I need a getaway for like a week or something. But the break, I'm taking a break for like a month. The beginning of October we'll start again with the show, and the main reason for that is that I'm actually burning out.
I can understand, man.
Yeah,
You've been putting the work in.
yeah, I'm burning out, man. It's not as exciting as it used to be. Like I used to be, bruh, like for tomorrow's episode, I'd be so much excited, like with the amount of research, and I can feel it within myself that the amount of effort that I'm putting in is not the same as before. But people might not easily see it because of the practice. You've practiced so much, you've known how to structure an interview, but within me, I also feel like um, I've said I've managed to teach people through other people, obviously, but I've managed to teach so much, and I need the time to get back to doing music again. Because these interviews, bro, as much as it's an hour or 2 hours, however long, every day, but the preparation is the full day. Like it's a whole day preparing for this thing, graphics work, social media promotion, talking,
Editing. I've seen.
voice
There
notes.
must be a lot of background stuff happening.
Yeah, yeah,
You don't just record and put it out.
yeah, exactly. So
You,
I need
you you
time, man.
have you have a production company happening at
Yeah,
your place.
yeah, with two people. You know what I mean? Like
Madness.
with two people. And but man, I think I need more than anything. The break is to also reflect. Go back, watch all of the episodes, because there's another plan to reuse the episodes in a bigger way than it has already been done, and
Okay.
I'll share that with you because I think it's important for me to, once I put something out there, I have even better motivation to go through with it, and that is because of the information. I'm trying to find, well, I'm working on finding a way to make this thing smaller, and whether it's in a form of mini documentaries of Bread for Soul convos, and just cutting out certain concepts, similar concepts. So like if Black Coffee is talking about depression in China and Zano and so many other people, you can put that and have a mental health part of Bread for Soul Convos. And then you can have like a starting up part, because most people will say how they started out. Have sections of that, and in a form of a book, in a form of a documentary. So that's the plan that me and my partner are doing now. Like we actually
That's amazing. So
creating
you
a
just
book.
keep the story going, but instead of having one artist discussion, you edit and hit specific topics.
Yes, hit specific topics, and that becomes kind of like a four-part book and a four-part documentary that we want to get into, as a thing, like, what can I say, to it's a how-to guide, for aspiring musicians. Just the same foundation that the convos are about, but it's more like direct now, like, and I want to get those ideas, put them together in a form of a book. Hopefully next year, release the book, release the documentary.
Uh,
Yeah, man. So that's the plan.
how do you keep the momentum, man? You don't stop. Like I love it. It's inspiring.
Yeah,
I'm also I like to keep myself busy.
yeah,
I've seen, like most people see, with the amount of music that I put out on my record label
yeah.
and the amount of content and stuff that I do for my radio show. Like I like being busy because it gives me purpose.
Mm.
And I see the same flame burning in you, man. Like there's, I feel like you need this rest. You
Yeah,
definitely
I do.
are at the end of your tether. But
Yeah,
I'm sure once you've, recouped and you're back in a sane mind, that you're going to start, keeping yourself super busy once again.
yeah, yeah,
I
yeah.
feel like that flame's never going to go out.
Bruh, you can't.
So you've got all these conversations that you're going to start editing and stuff. When after your month break, can we look forward to more daily Bread for Soul conversations?
Yeah, yeah, definitely. So it might not be daily, because I like, nah, it's not gonna happen every day.
It's a lot of-
It's a lot of work, bro. But there will be like probably like a 3 times a week type of thing, or twice a week. But also I'm trying to change it to become more focused. Like have a day specifically for DJs and producers. Have a day for other things. that are involved within the arts, whether it's promoting, club owning, and stuff like that, and then have another inspirational day, like in that week for somebody who's not in the house music scene, or not even probably in the music scene, but a conversation that can be um, shifted and altered for it to fit Bread for Soul Convos, so that it can help other people. So that's the plan, to kind of come back, make it lesser, make it more focused and more precise, kind of direct. But the other thing, man, like I really need to get back to making music, because there's a project
I
that
was
I'm
about
working
to
on.
ask. I was about to ask. You've spent 100 days
Yeah,
over lockdown where 95% of producers have spent this time making music.
exactly right.
You've almost done the opposite and have used this time to establish this Bread for Soul Conversation brand, which has been a beautiful thing to watch. And I think you've helped so many people in so many instances just through the conversations that you're having, the honest conversations and what's come out and what I've seen. So, like, shout outs to you, man. Like, big congratulations. I want to see you on TV in 2021, man. I want to see the Oprah
Yeah,
Winfrey of house music doing his thing
yeah,
and giving away deep house CDs under people's chairs. It's
yeah.
been it's been an inspiration to watch you do your thing.
Yeah.
When is the production going to start? Once you've given yourself a bit more time?
No, no, I've actually already started. Like there's some songs that I've been working on just a bit, even during the lockdown, but I haven't been
Okay.
putting a lot of focus on it. But definitely I've already recorded a song, actually, vocals on a song. Just now
Oh wow.
I'm working on recording horn section and recording guitars, and really getting it together now. Like hopefully it's something that will come out before the end of the year. I'm still in conflict with myself with regards to releasing music, because, for one hand, and I was telling this to China Chameleon, I said, you releasing a lot of music is gonna work for you. Like at the end of lockdown, your level and your reach is at a different, at a higher level. But for me, um, I don't have that speed that he has, to do a song in 2 days, 3 days, and that's beautiful, But I think, for me to having it's the perfect time for me to kind of wrap up this project, because hopefully by the time it's done, I'll be able to tour it and tour it with a full band as well, So that's
For
the
sure.
that's the plan for the
Now,
music.
I know we're going to finish off soon, but I know that as we started the conversation, Sir LSG is a producer. Sir LSG is a DJ
Yeah,
first.
yeah,
That's how I know Sir LSG.
yeah,
But now Sir LSG's got into the space where Sir LSG conducts interviews and puts them out. Beautiful interviews with, a huge audience and a huge list of people that a lot of people dream to interview. Where's the focus moving forward for Sir LSG? Is the interviewing as important as the production and the DJing, or is there something that you want to build on? Where's it to next?
yeah, that's an interesting question, bro. Like, I think that, because of where things are in the music industry, I feel going forward, in the future is going to be, I'm just predicting, but in the future it's going to be weird for you to say I'm only a musician. There's nothing wrong
Totally.
about being a musician only right now, but in the future we need to find ways of being a musician and being a content creator, because that's another avenue. It might not be like a monetary avenue, but with that, you will be able to pull in more people. It's kind of like what you do as well. You're a DJ, you're a producer, but you're also a radio host. You're also a label owner, and all of these things, one doesn't have to suffer from because of the other. It's a matter of finding balance in what you do. So I definitely don't see myself as the producer who's going to be doing an album every year. That's not,
Mm.
it wasn't the case anyway. But I'm seeing myself as somebody who's gonna be able to do an album, but similarly do a quality TV production show, and be at a gig on a Friday night, Saturday night. I need to find ways of focusing equally, if not more, depending on what needs more attention at a certain time. Like now, this break gives me more time to focus on the music, and worry less about doing preparations for the convos. Similarly, then afterwards, like I said, if I have 3 days of convos, I've got 2 3 full days of music in a week. So that's the plan, bro. I'm just planning to grow all of these avenue similarly and equally, because I see myself as that multifaceted artist who's able to do many different things at once.
Amazing, amazing. You've been an inspiration to watch over lockdown, man.
Thank you,
You really
bro.
have. I'm so privileged to know you and to be able to interview you on your 100th show, man. Congratulations.
No, thank
I
you, thank
think
you, bro.
I think let's call it a wrap. It was amazing, and continue doing you, man.
Yeah, that's important, right? That's another thing, bro. Like, what is important for you as a person? I think,
100%.
yeah. But thank you. I mean, you were my first guest. You would remember, like, I remember how unprepared I was. Like, not for your interview, but you asked me, so who do you have tomorrow? And I'm like, I don't know. Like, I'll see. so,
And
so
now look at you, bro. Now look at you, killing the
Bruh,
game.
thank you. No, and thank you so much for doing this interview, bruh. Duke. Like also the work that you
Obviously,
do. It's kind of like it's also an inspiration for me. So for me to see somebody do it well, like being on radio and your show is like it's pumping, label is working. When you DJ, you on point. It also gives me that motivation that this thing is possible, and if you can do it, I can do it too. You know what I mean?
100%, man. It's just about putting your head down and focusing, which I
Yeah.
think you're very good at doing, man.
Thank you, bro. Thank you. But now,
Nice one.
now I need a
Thanks,
break.
LSG.
Yeah, for sure. Thank you, and thank you to people who've been watching this thing for such a long time. For me, it's like it's very discouraging if you were to watch it and there was one person viewing, but I've been so fortunate to have many people coming in and viewing this thing live. Every morning, and when you watch the views afterwards, those are the things that have been really keeping me going. So, firstly, secondly, I mean, I can't stop by without thanking my partner, DJ Soul Diva, thanking Dumi from Best Beats. Without those two people, I think this thing would not be what it is. So it's a teamwork, definitely. And yeah, man, what more can I say? 100 episodes. Let's look out for season
Shout
two.
outs to you, man.
Shout out, bro. Peace out.
Nice one, bro.